budgeting is like the number one thing you have to get right 100% because that tells you how much you have left over. What would you say is like the the best way to kind of set up a budget and manage it? How can people stick to it to a budget effectively?
So, like, I fully agree. First of all, like, if well, what you said about the money, if you have £1,000 and you can't even manage that correctly, or you just end up spending it, there's no point. Um, and like that will apply no matter how much money you're making. And I see it loads as well, even with people that make a lot more money, or maybe they're high income earners. Like they end up investing probably the same as someone who's making like the bare minimum, really, because they just don't manage their money well. And it's something that gets overlooked a lot. But in terms of the budgeting and keeping it like as straightforward as possible, like I think if you can make something just easy for yourself, then that's as like whatever way you decide to do that is good. But what I generally say to people is it doesn't need to be like a strenuous, painful process. You can just sit down once a month and like I offer like a free budget tracker. I'm sure loads of other people do online. All these finance guys will generally have some sort of resource there. Just fill out all your monthly expenses based on probably last month, and then and whatever income you earn on a regular basis, and that'll give you generally an idea of your disposable income, or what in theory you should have available at the end of the month. And then, to be honest, most people when they do that for the first time, they get a shock because they see, okay, this is what I should have. And they never do have that amount. So like I just tell people, potentially work towards that, and if you can put that aside at the very beginning of the month so that you don't spend it, and then try and stick to those expenses, usually that is like a good place to start. And also, it doesn't need to be like you're checking your budget every single day sort of thing. Like like that'll just get too painful and you'll end up dropping it. So I try and tell people, even just put it in a folder, all this stuff, and at the end of the month, every month, make sure you go through it properly, or just update it. It only needs to take 20, 30 minutes, but you'll see where you're going wrong every month and you can make adjustments from there. And even from a young age, if it's a small amount of money, if you make sure that you're doing something useful, like building an emergency fund with that disposable income, then it'll go a long way towards you in a short space of time.
Mm, yeah, I agree. Like, I think when once you kind of skim through your recent purchases, you'll realize that how much all of the small things add up. And like even like you buy when you're out, you buy lunch or you buy dinner, and then through the week, like suddenly you spent like 100, 200 on like things you don't even remember. Just like spending money on. So,
And
what do you
to be
think is
fair,
like
yeah, go on.
gone?
I was gonna say, just like on that point, like if you don't have that much money to begin with and you're only starting out, like cutting back on the small things like that add up without you noticing, like that's the easiest way to like save money for it towards investing, because if you're not making enough money, the only really way to get more money is to cut back on their expenses.